Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome at this webinar about how to solve the stagnant rail freight share in the EU organized by the ERCI network. My name is Bernard Piet. I'm the Managing Director of Logistics in Wallonia, a logistics and innovation cluster located in Belgium, and also board member of the ERCI network. As you can see, some word about ERCI if you allow me. So the ERCI networks, ERCI stands for European Railway Clusters Initiative, is a meta-cluster and a network of 18 European clusters covering 17 European countries. You can see here the spread and the footprint of the network on these maps. And ERCI represents over 3,600 companies, including 2,300 SMEs, as well as universities, research and development institutions, educational institution incubators, and accelerators. So ERCI is a network which is managed nationally and regionally by nationally and regionally focused clusters. So this is also a network which creates different activities, and it's the main aim of ERCI is to bring customer, supplier, supply chain opportunities together, bringing small and medium-sized companies together, enhancing visibility on international level. And for this task, we, for instance, organize each year an innovation awards, which was awarded last year, and on the occasion of the InnoTrans fair. That's I'm sure most of you know, which happens every 2 years in Berlin, and also with different task forces. This webinar takes place in the framework of a task force about multimodal and logistics, knowing that ERCI network is a network of railway cluster, mainly industrial companies which are active in the railway sectors and the railway supply chain. But we decided some years ago to also start a task force about multimodal and logistics, and in this framework, this webinar takes place. Next slide, please. You can see here the different context of ERCI. So we have a website, eurailclusters.com, and you can, of course, follow us on LinkedIn. You can then have scan the QR code if you want to follow us. And of course, having contacts with the secretariat of the network, which is located in Brussels. Next slide, please. As I told you, we were starting some years ago a task force about multimodal logistics. And why is that we started this task force? The general objective of this task force is to stimulate and deploy initiative, efficient and sustainable freight transport services which bring freight flows in or out of the core network corridors using the infrastructure of the core and comprehensive network. As you know, the European Union wants to take the railway and to make the railway the backbone of logistics and mobility in Europe. And we all know that the freight share, the share of the rail freight is one of the lowest in the different transportation mode, on the ground transportation mode. So it is very of crucial importance then to have actions that can enhance and improve the share, the freight share of the train of train transportation. We think that the proposal of improvement should go towards a better integration between transportation modes. That's why we speak about multimodality. Enable optimal choice for operators and customers to make the transport system more balanced between modes, and a view to increasing the use of the most energy efficient transport solution. And we all know that rail transport is by far the most energy efficient transport solution. And also improve the efficiency of process within the supply chain, enhancing asset utilization and infrastructure capacity, and establishing trusted cooperation between transport stakeholders. Because of course, multimodal and logistics is not only a question of transport, but also a question of modal choice, which are made by industrial companies for their supply chain, and also address inefficiencies or improvements within single mode of transport solutions. And by this way, trying to improve also the interfaces between the different transportation modes. Next slide, please. So far, different actions have been undertaken. We started also the action of the Task Force Multimodal and Logistics with a mapping of existing train connections in Europe to unlock potential new relations. We have made different applications in EU projects, either on as ERCI network or either are by the different members of the network, which are involved in multimodal transport. And we have also organized different workshops and especially a meeting at the Port of Barcelona to engage stakeholders in actions fostering the modal shift. Next slide, please. The next meeting of this Task Force Multimodal Logistics will take place on the 26th of February 2025 in La Spezia in Italy. And there will be a special topics on this task force concerning military mobility. Why this task force? I do not have to explain the geopolitical context that we face now in Europe and also around the world. And more stakeholders are conscious and are aware that the maintaining on infrastructure and good infrastructure is absolutely of crucial importance for strategic reasons. So the objectives of this meeting in La Spezia will be to share and leverage knowledge about military mobility and the initiative already under implementation in the different EU countries, to discuss what needs to be done and including how the European industrial ecosystems can be involved in the increasing the preparedness and resilience in case of needs, and also to review the military mobility action plans from the EU. So this is all on my side, and I will not stay, unfortunately, with you for all of the seminar. And now I will hand over my colleague Lutz Hübner from Berlin Partner will also be with you for the rest of the seminar. And we decided to organize this seminar to present an initiative which has been taken by FERRMED. And now I will hand over to our colleagues of FERRMED. Once more, welcome at this webinar. I hope we will enjoy the participation of this seminar and also find the information useful. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. In fact, the study that we have been doing during 4 years is fully in line with the task force that you have mentioned regarding multimodal and logistics. And then I suppose that it will be of interest for you to look at the main conclusions of the study that I will do by myself. Later, Mr. Eduard Gracia, that is economist, will make will analyze the socioeconomic and environmental conclusions. Mr. Efraín Larrea will talk about the FIRRST system implementation, and myself will finish the presentation with one explanation regarding the stakeholder audience that we are looking for the implementation of the FIRRST system in the European Union. Then, if you don't mind, I will start with my presentation.
Just a moment. Just a moment. We cannot see the full screen presentation. We can only the view of the referent. Maybe you can change the view.
Yes. Yes. Also, we'll take a floor, Mr. Valentin Bros, regarding all the concerns.
It's okay now, Lutz?
Growing stock.
It's okay? Okay.
It's okay.
Okay, then let's move the following one, please. The main conclusions of the study are as follows. The objective of the study was basically identify where the freight traffic is in the extended core network, because unfortunately, as you know, when we created FERRMED 20 years ago, 2004, the share of the arrival in the land freight transportation was 18%. Today is even less than 18%. Then how we can achieve the targets of the European Commission that is looking for 30% of share by railway for distances over 300 kilometers. But as nobody knows how to achieve this, frankly speaking, then we decided to make this huge study that takes 45,000 hours of work and 24 people from all different experts from different places of the European Union to develop the study. One key point was then to identify where the traffic is in the extended core network. Another point was to identify which are the most important logistic hubs in the European Union, and then to analyze why the railway don't increase the share. Why? Which is the problem? And then to try to define a new integrated railroad system of transport for freight. And of course, to ask the European Commission to have one plan at European level, because as you know, unfortunately, every member state invest where they want, not with the corridor criteria or with network criteria at European level. Then this is another important point that we would like to emphasize with this study. Next, please. This is the first result of the study. We have analyzed in small sections of 30 kilometers as an average, all the corridors of the extended core network. We have analyzed 77,240 kilometers and all modes. That means that we have analyzed inland waterways, barge, transportation, road, and rail. And here is the representation of the extended core network in three colors: blue color, red color, and gray color. The blue color is where the most important traffic exists. Here we have the 65% of the traffic of the extended core network. And in principle, is here where we have to invest if we would like to achieve the targets of the European Commission. If we don't make such kind of priorities, we never will achieve the results. Another important point is the red color. The red color is where is the 65% of the traffic in the peripheral member states, because in fact, we cannot abandon the peripheral countries. One specific case is Spain, in which you could see blue color and red color. The 65% of the traffic in Spain is blue color plus red color. Here is where is the most important traffic in Spain. I am always talking about freight. That means that investing in 18,000 kilometers, we achieve practically all the targets of the European Commission regarding socioeconomic and environmental issues. And the network, the threshold to be in blue color or not in blue color is that in these small sections that I mentioned of 30 kilometers, more or less as an average, the number of tons per day in both directions have to reach 122,000 tons. If we are over this, we are in blue color. If we are less than this, we are in red or gray color. Okay. Then let's look to the next one. We have also investigated which are the most important hubs, logistic hubs in Europe. The ones that you could see here in more dark color are the most important. The most important hubs are basically rural area, that is number 1, Great Milano, that is number 2, Barcelona Tarragona, that is number 3, and then we have Randstad, we have Ile-de-France, we have Antwerpen, Brussels, and we have Frankfurt Neckar area, okay, and also Berlin, Brandenburg. These are the most important logistic hubs in Europe, considering different parameters, basically population, but most important is the flow, the inflow and outflow of goods, the added value of these goods, and then population of these important hubs. Then here in this triangle is where we have the most important traffic in Europe regarding freight. Okay, next please. Another important issue of the study is that we have analyzed, as I said, all the network. Then we know all kinds of issues. We know all the sidings in the manufacturing companies. We know the dedicated terminals for cars, for instance, mining, etc. And also we know the intermodal terminals. In this 77,240 kilometers, that is the standard core network, we have 644 intermodal terminals. But one problem that we have here, as you can see, is that almost 20% of the terminals have a length for loading and unloading of less than 250 meters. Then if we would like to have trains of 740 meters, as the European Commission states, we have to cut the train in several parts in order to, in this case, in this 20% of the terminals. 43.5% of the terminals have a length for loading and unloading of 251 to 500. We need also to cut the trains. And from 500 to 700, we have 25.3. And from 700 to 750, we have 7.3. And more than 750 meters have 4.2. Then it means that we have almost more or less 10% of the terminals that allows to get trains of 740 meters without cutting the train. This is the first conclusion. The second conclusion is that, unfortunately, almost 90% of these terminals are dead end. That means that we have to introduce the train and to take the train away. Pass through, we only have 12.3. And possible conversion to pass through, there are 10% of the terminals that could be converted to pass through. Very difficult to enlarge the terminals because most of them are situated in very crowded areas in Europe. Okay, but what is clear is that with this number of terminals that we have, and we will demonstrate this later, we cannot achieve the 30% of the traffic by railway. We need to introduce additional terminals, as you could see in the next slide. Please. Here you could see that we require 425 additional terminals in the European Union if we would like to reach the 30% of the land freight transportation by railway. Of course, these new terminals, if possible, have to have a shape like you could see here in this layout. The central part of the terminal will be for loading and loading. The buffer areas are not to classify wagons, are basically to stop the trains if the loading and loading area is full. And also the distance between the main line and the central part of the terminal allows to reduce the speed of the train from 100 kilometers per hour to stop, okay? And vice versa, from stop to 100 kilometers per hour in order to disturb at minimum the main line, okay? And another important point is why the train is so stagnant. I mentioned that we have hundreds of hubs. We show in the map that we have been explaining to you some minutes ago the most important hubs. And let's look at the most important hubs. What happened in the most important hub is rural area. Next one, please. In this graph, you could see that, of course, rural area has hundreds of destinations or thousands of destinations. But in fact, here we have only introduced the 30 most important. What is clear is that daily demand in the green color is the daily demand, the total daily demand. The most important destination is Koblenz area, and then there are other destinations. And the blue bar is basically the 30% of the total amount of flow that we have to different destinations. That means that this is about 30% of the total flow that is in each destination. In fact, the point is that the trains in Europe, unfortunately, of course, there are exceptions in the case of mining, the case of chemicals, etc. But the average is the trains transport only 500 tons, net tons. We consider that with longer trains we can reach 700 net tons, but in this case, as you can see here, in the case of Koblenz, for instance, that the 30% will represent 2,700 tons daily. We can have, of course, two trains at least, because when direction and terminal direction is 1,400 tons, then we can reach with two trains to 2,800 tons. That is all what is the daily traffic that could be absorbed by train. But the problem is that after the first 8 destinations, there is no possibility to reach trains in each direction, full trains daily. Of course, we can have trains every 2 days, every 3 days, every week, every fortnight, but what happens is that the agri-food products and the manufacturing products that the factories used to go to work just in time, they don't wait to take the truck. This is the situation. The train with the system of point-to-point trains, complete trains to destination without intermediate stops, cannot absorb the traffic, and the same happens with the isolated powers train system, the same problem. And in the second part of this graph, you could see the ABC, and of course, considering that the train takes 100% of the traffic, of the daily traffic, we, with the 8 destinations which is possible to have this kind of train, we can only reach 30% of the total demand. And if the train takes 30%, that means the train will take 10% approximately of the total demand. This is the problem that we have in Europe. For this reason, the train doesn't grow properly to reach the 30%. Then we need trains fully aligned with the road. Next, please. And this is our proposal. Our proposal is that we need to abandon the isolated wagon system and to look at a virtual classification of ILUs, intermodal logistic units. Let's say containers, let's say truck bodies, let's say semi-trailers. And then we have to organize all the system of the integrated system in land transportation in real time, including, if you want, in the case of the railway, rolling planning system. And then, of course, between two important points, that could be, I don't know, Ruhr and Milan area or Ruhr and Barcelona area, we can have point-to-point daily trains. There is no problem. But only 1 or 2 per day, maximum. And then we need other trains that stop at request, that stop according to the real demand. Let's say that there is a train that starts in Ruhr area, destination Barcelona. We know that this train has to stop in Cologne, has to stop in Frankfurt, has to stop in Lyon, has to stop in Marseille, and then Barcelona. But the next train will not stop in Frankfurt, will stop in Cologne, will not stop in Lyon, will stop in Dijon, etc., according to the real demand. And even if there is room in the train, and there is one emergency, the train has started in Ruhr area, and there is one emergency case, and the train was not planned to stop in Luxembourg, for instance, in real time will inform the train, the driver, that it has to stop in Luxembourg for a while to take a container destination Marseille, for instance. This is the idea, okay? Of course, it's a complete revolution because today, as you know, to assign one path for a train, in some cases we need 1 month, 2 months or more. And our idea is that we work in real time, and only 3 hours before the departure of the train to the destination, we know perfectly well where the train has to stop, which number of containers, semi-trailer or truck body has to load and unload, and according to the requirement time to load and unload, we can establish also the estimated time of arrival to final destination. This is our proposal that we will explain in more detail later. And now I kindly ask Eduardo Grassi to take the floor to explain the results of the study and the implementation of this system. Eduardo, would you take the floor, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Joan. So this slide that you see is a summary of the conclusions of the socioeconomic evaluation that we conducted. It looks like a complicated slide. In reality, the messages it conveys are quite simple. Let me explain. To the left of the slide, what you see is the difference between the marginal cost per ton kilometer, in euros per ton kilometer, of transport via road and transport in combined transport. Now, of course, you see a big gap, right? It's almost 2/3 of the cost is shaved. Two things should be mentioned here. First, as you notice, most of the cost that is eliminated is related to pollution and other externalities, so CO2, stuff like that. So obviously that's cost that the transport company doesn't see directly. It's a cost for society. Part of the cost that is reduced, that 10.6 operational gains, that's indeed operational. But that's one element. The other element to remember here is there are conditions to being able to realize these benefits, and that's primarily the railway transport, the combined transport, including railway, becomes a lot more flexible. There is a program of liberalization in Europe. There is the TEN-T program to increase its capacity, but also that requires a lot of flexibility from the point of view of the railway service, and this is why we are proposing FIRRST. FIRRST would be what would allow us to make this flexible enough to make these advantages feasible, because indeed many wares could go via combined transport instead of just going by road as they do today. So there are conditions to this. To simplify, you could say FIRRST is what would enable these advantages. Now, of course, this is the advantage per ton kilometer. But of course, there is something else that you have to consider, is the investment that needs to be made so that the route can indeed service all these tons of freight. And that's what you see on the right hand side. On the right hand side, you see the net present value of these of the investments, both the TEN-T already programmed European investments and what we see at the bottom, the FERRMED investment. That's the investment that we are recommending as FERRMED to be able to enable essentially the first method in those routes. As you see, it's minor compared with what is already programmed to be invested. And so what we did on the right side was to say, okay, so for every segment in the European network, remember that a few slides ago, Joan explained, we divided we broke down the network in three types of route. The ones that we painted in blue are what we call central backbone, which is the ones that represent collectively 65% of the traffic. That's of the transport traffic. That's 122,000 tons and above. Then the extended backbone, which are the ones that added to the central backbone for each country, make 65% of the traffic in that country. So countries like Portugal or Greece, for example, only do not have blue lines, but the red lines make that 65% of that country's transport volume. And gray, as you remember, are the rest, of which we have separated here the ones that belong to the countries, the core countries in Europe, which the ones that have the most transport demand, Austria, Belgium, Czech Republic, France, Germany, Hungary, Italy, Netherlands, Slovakia, and Switzerland. And the other column is the rest of the network, so the gray lines in countries that are not in the center, because those countries that are in the core of Europe, as you can imagine, and as you saw in the diagram that Joan showed to you before, are the ones that concentrate most of the blue lines, the ones that have the most traffic. So obviously the gray lines for those are still substantial volumes. And here is the message that you see here. So you see the column on the right is the aggregate. And as you see, the first message is, yes, this program adds value. So you make these investments, this adds value to the European network of transport. But the second message is that value is essentially concentrated on the central backbone, on those routes that represent collectively 65% of the transport in Europe. And it makes sense because it's there where the infrastructure investment has a potential big gain due to all the tons of transport wares of freight that would go from road, which is how they are traveling today, to railway or to combined transport. So that's the message. It's a big price to be captured. It has a condition that the combined transport in Europe has to become flexible. That's why we're proposing FIRRST. And where we need to focus is on those blue lines, that central backbone, that is where most of value is, because most of the demand is there. That would be the key socioeconomic message. Thank you very much.
Okay, Eduard, thank you very much for your presentation. Now I kindly ask to take the floor Efraín Larrea, that is one key person in EMECRIT and has collaborated with us in the development of the study. Then he will explain the FIRST system to you. Efraín?
Yes, thank you, Joan. So good morning, everyone. I will make a quick introduction and description of what this FIRST system we are proposing is. You have, of course, all the details in the very long study document that we produced at the end of the study last year. So the first thing is to insist a bit on why we propose this system, and the idea is simple. After all the analysis that has been presented right now, we try to explore possible solutions, and we came up with the one that makes more sense to us and tackles the issues at hand. Okay, maybe it's good to stress that, of course, as we want to boost the use of rail through this new way of organizing freight transportation, this is fully in line with the objectives of the Commission of the decarbonization of the transport system. Okay, and it's, as I said, fully in line with all the different targets, the different policy packages, and so let's say we are on the good line here. FIRST system, as Joan just explained a few minutes ago, relies on a system that means that all the agents in the transport chain are fully interconnected. We know that some partial interconnections do exist in the transport chain already nowadays, but we think this is not enough. We need to really involve the rail freight stakeholders here. Okay, and for this reason, this FIRST system needs a centralized database that allows connection between all the different stakeholders, those being truck operators, rail system operators, rail infrastructure managers, and most importantly, the shippers, the ones that have the cargo that needs to be moved around. Okay, so starting from this system, can we move forward? Yes, thank you. What we propose is that, given that everything is fully digitalized and automated, we move from the concept of the old concept of the marshalling yard in the marshalling stations of the 19th century, and we move to a virtual marshalling yard, in which, through the use of technology and databases, we can fully trace in a given railway line, which consists of several rail freight stations. We know, or intermodal terminals if you wish, we know which available spaces are there and which needs are there also in terms of cargo. This system should be able to move all kinds of intermodal loading units, the main ones being containers, semi-trailers, and swap bodies. And at any given moment, the system should be able to know precisely where the cargo is, all the units of cargo that need to get in and out of the system, and how the loading scheme are at each one of the rail freight terminals. In this situation, we can completely control all the system and organize these specific railway services of the FIRRST system. So a shipper needs to move a cargo from point A to point B in a given time slot. Okay? Those are the first requirements that we give to the system to try to find the best possible solutions. The system, given that it has all the information about the available railway services, proposes the best one according to any criteria that you wish. That could be estimated time of arrival, total lead time, or maybe emissions. And so the shipper is able to choose the one that suits best their needs. And the system always tells us something about the emissions, because that's at the core here. Okay? It's important to know that there are some degrees of freedom, and so a given shipper might be interested in getting to one or another intermodal terminal to load the cargo into the system, depending on the service that goes through there and that takes the path that they need. Okay? This system also allows making changes between trains. So we allow transshipment. It's not ideal to do that, of course, but if the system runs smoothly, this is something that could be a possibility, and we'll see that on the video that we'll be showing later. It's important to know, of course, the estimated time of arrival, and this is something that unfortunately in rail freight is not always the case, because freight trains in most places in Europe don't have priority, and they are subject to lots of problems. They are many times delayed, and so this is something that needs to be improved in this system. It's also critical to be aware that in this system there will be many more trains that we have today, and different trains with the same origin and destination will have different stopping schedules, because let's say the main movement, the main deviation here from the traditional railway services is to make intermediate stops in order to cover all this unsatisfied demand that we see between the big hubs that already have point-to-point rail services. Okay, so there might be a very wide schedule of trains with different stopping patterns. For each possible combination, both the shipper and the operator will receive an estimation of the savings of this proposed intermodal route. Okay? And this should cover everything. So for this calculation, we need to take into account not just the use of the rail, but also how much haulage is needed by truck. Okay, and so this will inform us about the reduction in all kinds of externalities and environmental costs. In order to set up this system, we need to change radically how rail is managed in Europe. And we could aim for something similar to what we see here in the image, which is the integrated European airspace zones. Okay, we propose that Europe should be divided in such zones for local control of the rail, but there shouldn't be a clear divide, national divide between railway systems. We need cooperation of all infrastructure managers. Okay. Next one, please. Another important aspect is, we already mentioned, is the control and traceability of both the cargo and the services. This is something that most truck fleets already have. They have GPS trackers, and you may know the location of your shipping at any time using an app. So that's easy for trucks. It's not so commonplace for trains, and this is something that is needed. And this system needs to be integrated across all the modes. Okay? If we don't get this kind of transparency, we won't engage the shippers into using this system. So moving from the theoretical perspective, what are we going to need for a real test? Because that's something we already envisaged, a first test of where to try this system. And first of all, we need intermodal terminals that ideally should be passed through and should be able to operate 740-meter long trains. And this is in order to avoid shunting operations. We need the system to be very fast, so we cannot allow for trains to be composed and decomposed at every station. This is why we need these kind of terminals. We can work maybe with shorter tracks initially, provided that the terminal is passed through, or maybe with long tracks in terminals that are not passed through, because then we just need to make one backwards and forwards movement, and this minimizes the amount of operations. And this is also critical, we need adequate loading gauge. Ideally, it should be P400, because we are going to move intermodal loading units, and this means that we need a higher clearance on top of tunnels and bridges, higher than the usual one for conventional wagons. Okay, this limits also our possibilities for this first test. So our proposal is to connect what we saw already, the big hubs in Europe. Okay, so we can connect the Ruhr area, we can connect the Rotterdam and Antwerp area down to Barcelona, passing through Paris. Okay, and this is the route that we propose for this the different terminals that adhere to these requirements of being long enough and being passed through. Okay, not many terminals are perfect for that, but some of them are quite good enough to be part of the test without having to do any kind of intervention on them. On a second phase, we could try to bring to the system abandoned or semi-abandoned marshalling yards, which are the points in red in the map, that with a minimal investment could become fully functional FIRRST intermodal terminals. Using all the data that we gather in the study, we have made a first estimation, and we see that out of the potential 100% of traffic in this corridor that should move to the rail if we wanted to achieve this 30% objective of the Commission, more than half of it could be achieved just by setting up these FIRRST services stopping at intermediate stations without any kind of investment, because we could make use of the current infrastructure. Then, with some additional investment, we could bring in line more terminals that would enlarge the catchment area of these services until, with, let's say, a not so big investment in relative terms, because we are talking about railway here, which is very expensive at European scale. And so with around maybe 700, with less than 1,000 million euros, we could gather to bring into the rail all this potential traffic in this test pilot case. I think that's all from my side. No, sorry. This is just an example of one of such terminals. This is a terminal in Paris, which is 740 meters long. It's not passed through, but that could work for this first test. Okay. Luckily, we have several of those terminals around. And John will mention this more in detail afterwards, but it's clear that in order to make this a real project, we need a very comprehensive alliance of stakeholders, which should encompass all the aspects that you see here. You name it, from terminals, from infrastructure managers, logistic operators, transport operators, the shippers, the road haulers, associations, European agencies. So we need everyone on board for this, and of course we need some funding, because even if we are not going to make infrastructure investments in the first phases, there's a need for some funding in order to put this in motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Efraín. now is the time to take the floor by Valentin Bros talking about rolling stock required.
Okay, thank you, Joan. As has been said, the first range requirements must be intelligent freight range with a minimum length of 740 meters, and the load and unload the required ILUs. The trucks inside the terminals must not have catenary. The first range must be able to enter directly into the loading trucks, and as there is no catenary and to avoid the shunting locomotive, the first locomotives must be hybrid units. Also, the wagons must be multi-purpose. There are certain types of wagons that can carry semi-trailers, containers, and swap bodies with the fewest possible change. As has been said also, the terminals must be passed through, and we have had an integrated freight flow control system. The locomotive existing in the market nowadays, there are several hybrids, but we have shown here 4 of the most significant. Nothing else, is just to know that there are locomotives with the power enough and hybrids. Regarding the wagons, we recommend the T3000E. It's a type of wagon that we can load semi-trailers, containers, 20, 40 feet, and swap bodies. There exists also a lot of non-cranable semi-trailers. To load non-cranable semi-trailers in this kind of wagons, we can use the platforms R2L from VTG or 3.0 from Nikrasa that could be left in the wagon, and they are not interfering with the containers or swap bodies loading. Here you can see a picture of a wagon of this that is a dual pocket wagon. In one pocket we have a semi-trailer, and in the other pocket we have 2 containers. This is why we recommend this kind of wagon, although for certain type of trains, also FIRRST, we can use other types of wagons.
Okay, Valentin, thank you very much. Let's move now to the impact of traffic scenarios in the different areas in Europe. I will show you an example that is Stuttgart area. In this table, you could see the first column is the denomination of the different existing intermodal terminals or manufacturing companies, because we have analyzed all that is moving in this area. And then we know perfectly well, because we have several members in FERRMED that are intermodal terminals, and we have calculated perfectly well which is the diamond required to load and unload a semi-trailer, a swap body, or a container by crane or by ridge stacker. Then we know perfectly well which is the capacity of the different terminals, and also according to the production volume, we know which are the volumes that produce the different factories in the area. Okay. In the second column, that is denominated Global Traffic Drivers Road 2015, because it's the year in which we take the information. I repeat to you that this study takes more than 4 years, and then we start the study in 2019, and then we take the information of 2015, in some cases 2018. But the point is that in this second column, you could see 58,800 tons. This is the 30% of inflow, outflow of the Stuttgart area. And in principle, according to the European Commission targets, this has to be transported by rail. In fact, in the third column, you could see that instead of 58,800 tons, the rail transports only 26,000 tons. That means that we have to look if the existing terminals in the 4 column are able to reach this target. In principle, we consider that with the existing trains, we could include a little bit the capacity, improving the way in which we manage point-to-point trains, and we consider that with such kind of trains we could reach 28,600 tons, that is 10% more. And we analyze the existing terminals, which is the capacity. And you could see that is in the bottom, there is a surplus of 12,000 tons. But I have to say that we have calculated the capacity considering that the terminals are running 3 shifts and 7 days a week. That is not true in principle, but we, in order to unify the criteria, we have considered this. In any case, it's clear that 28,600 tons could be managed by the existing terminals. But, in fact, if we move to the following column, that is 2030 plus 20%, it's still we can reach 34,300 tons. But it's clear that we cannot reach 50,800 tons. There is an additional traffic that we have to absorb with additional terminals, as you could see in the 6th column. That is 2030 stagnant, and in this case, the remaining 30,200 tons that has to be considered in order to achieve the target of 30%, you could see that we need 3 additional terminals. In fact, we have discussed this with the responsibles of the Baden-Württemberg in Germany, and they say, yes, we are looking for additional terminal. We said, not only one, you need at least 2 more. And of course, if the traffic increases 20%, the surplus is even less. You could see that we only will have a surplus of 1,360 tons, that if we consider that the terminals usually don't work 3 shifts, 7 days a week, even perhaps we will need some additional terminal. This is how we have calculated all over Europe the number of additional terminals required in all the hubs and logistics areas in the European Union. Next, please. Well, next. Happen? No. Well, this I have already explained it to you. According to this same kind of calculations, we need this additional amount of terminals. After this, let's move to the final part of the presentation, that is the creation of a stakeholders alliance in order to promote the FIRRST system. Next, please. As we said, we are looking for 2 routes, Rotterdam, Antwerpen, Brussels, Lille, Paris, Dijon, Lyon, Marseille, Montpellier, Barcelona, and Duisburg, Düsseldorf, Koblenz, Luxembourg, Metz, Nancy, Dijon, Lyon, Marseille, Montpellier, Barcelona. These are the area, and of course we consider a catchment area of 100 to 100 kilometers each side of the route. In order, we have to know perfectly well which is the situation of the trucks and the e-bus to be transported. Okay. Next, please. The objectives of the alliance is basically to facilitate the collaboration and communication among the stakeholders, to involve the stakeholders in the realization of the first pilot test. There are 3 sorts of stakeholders, and besides, promoters, implementers, and supporters. And the promoters, together with the implementers and the main supporters, will look for the detailed definition of the first pilot test that will be developed, considering operations, software, infrastructure, rolling stock, etc. Next. Well, the detailed definition of the implementation stage are like this. The first phase, in the first part of the first phase, we will look for how to remove the cross-border barriers, existing cross-border barriers. In the second part of the first phase, we will implement the system in the map that has been explained to you by Efraín Larrea, considering the 10 terminals that allows trains of 740 meters or pass-through terminals in these routes. And in the second phase, as Efraín Larrea has explained it, we'll introduce additional terminals in abandoned and marshalling yards, okay? Of course, another important point is to look for the sources of funding and then, basically, to develop the pilot test. Next, please. This is more or less the relation chart that we considered for this kind of stakeholder alliance, in which you could see there is a task force with the promoters. The promoters are basically ESC, that is European Shippers Council, IRU, that is the International Road Union, UIR, that is the Union of Combined Transport Railroad in Europe, and FERRMED. These are the promoters of the Stakeholder Alliance. And of course, we have to add here involved infrastructure managers, logistic operators, rail operators, road transporters, shippers, etc., and terminals, okay? All these people will appoint one management team, and this management team will appoint as well one company, consultant company, to help in the development of the study that will lead the project manager and the secretariat, okay? And the different groups that we have in FERRMED, the first working group will control the development of this test and also apport ideas. Other groups of other involved people in the stakeholder alliance could also collaborate in the analysis of the implementation. There are different areas to be considered. One is the infrastructure analysis or adaptation, basically the length of the trains, basically the possible arrangements in the terminals, the loading gates, etc. Another operation here, we have to work very close with the CER. CER is looking for the rolling planning, and this is a key point that we need. We need to allocate paths in the trains in real time. It's one part that we have to develop in this test. Another important point is the availability of rolling stock. The locomotives and freight vowels already exist, but we have to look which are the disponibility of this, if we need more or less. And the software that has been properly explained by Efraín Larrea, in which all the shippers could consult which are the best routes to utilize, and all information regarding estimated time of arrival, regarding the emissions, savings in emissions, savings in fuel consumption, etc., will be given to the shippers, okay? And finally, there are the different steps of implementation of this test. Next, please. We have already started to make some contacts. In principle, the green color are the promoters, the blue color are implementers that have said that they agree to participate in the test. This is, of course, in the early beginning. We have just now starting to develop this stakeholders alliance. And the orange color basically is supporters that are confirmed, okay? Then we could see, like infrastructure manager, we only have the line Figueras Perpignan in the cross border of France and Spain. And we are now in conversations with SFR Roseau, with Adif and Infravel. And regarding terminals, we have Best and Simalsa that agreed to participate. Regarding road transporters, we have already Calzina Carrel. Regarding shippers, we have SEAT, Volkswagen Group. Next, please. And regarding ports, we have Port of Duisburg already agrees to participate. Regarding flow control, we have an Italian company, the Certified Dock. Regarding specialized media, we have Ruptidor.com, that is one specialized magazine in all that is agri-food transportation in Europe. Regarding the support of involved region, by the time being, we have started with the north, with Holland, that already agrees, and we are now looking for other agreements. And regarding these business associations, we have basically the business association in Catalonia, because we have started to contact them, all them agree. And regarding the consultant company that will help us in the development of this test, Emigrid has agreed to participate and to develop the important part of management of this test. And finally, this is the tentative optimistic timing for the development of the test, in which we foresee that in the last quarter of 2026 we can start the test. Frankly speaking, I'm not so sure if it could be possible, but in any case, we jointly with other involved people, we will make the corresponding adjustments to this timing. And for my side, this is all. And then now, to finish our presentation, we can invite you to look at the explanatory video of the FIRRST system.
FIRRST, FERRMED Fast Flexible Integrated Railroad System of Transport.
During the 19th century and the first half of the 20th, freight transport was carried out by rail using the so-called single wagon system. With this system, individual cars or groups of wagons from different shippers are grouped together to form a single train.
These individual wagons are loaded at the loading station, transported to a collection point, grouped into a single train, transported from the departure point to the destination and distributed at the arrival station.
The EC's goal for 2030 is to combine freight modes so that rail can transport 30% of goods, according to the FERRMED study on traffic and modal optimization in the EU.
The only way to achieve this is by incorporating a new and revolutionary system which can move isolated truck trailers, swap bodies and containers to and from different destinations. Transport must reinvent itself. FIRRST is the solution. A new way of organizing multimodal road rail transport in the form of mobility as a service. The revolution in multimodal transport. Transport with FIRRST is more efficient and sustainable, as it shortens road journeys, reducing emissions.
This system contemplates the use of the different modes of transport and uses the railway to complement road routes of more than 300 kilometers. The trains used in this system can be divided into 3 categories.
Some will be direct.
Point-to-point trains without stops in the intermediate terminals.
Others will stop in said terminals.
With stops set sufficiently in advance to assign the path and maintain the estimated time of arrival.
Finally, and what makes the system new and truly revolutionary, is the stop-on-request trains,
which can make additional stops to those already programmed when the path was assigned, even after they have started their journey.
The FIRRST system is a change of paradigm that transforms the concept of the isolated wagon to that of an isolated trailer, container, or swap body.
It is a combined transport system at the service of the road as the most flexible mode.
The train is fully aligned with the road. To achieve this target, FERRMED is pushing for a series of innovations. A set of specific intelligent freight trains with wagons that can carry truck trailers, swap bodies and containers.
Reaching the EU strategic hubs, intermodal terminals, and intermediate terminals in the interconnection links between hubs throughout the EU backbone network. The number of trailers per train will be, as maximum, 42 units, plus some containers and swap bodies, and the total length of the trains must be 740 man-hours, including the locomotive.
B. A set of dual locomotives.
Electric plus, diesel electric or electric plus batteries with a starting traction, a Ford of 500 kilonewtons and a Power of 7,000 kilowatts, able to tow freight trains with a gross weight of 2,000 tons.
C. A set of flexible pass-through intermodal terminals
Suitable for fast loading and unloading truck trailers, swap bodies and containers on and off the freight trains throughout over the EU backbone network. The number of tracks in FIRRST intermodal terminals must be in proportion to with the importance of the hub.
D. For optimal functioning of the FIRRST system,
Full control of the trains and trucks in a single database is required. This control system is supported by real-time rolling planning concept.
the FIRRST intermodal terminals are classified as FIRRST strategic terminals,
located in the vicinity of the strategic logistic hubs or important industrial zones, which have around 6 or 5 tracks for the loading and unloading operations.
FIRRST intermediate small terminals,
Located in intermediate hubs or in moderate industrial zones with 4 or 3 tracks.
and FIRRST intermediate mini terminals,
Located in intermediate logistics hubs or in moderate logistics zones with 2 or 1 tracks.
All the FIRRST terminals require buffer tracks at both ends of the loading area, or at least at one. These tracks are not to form trains. Their purpose is to facilitate the acceleration and deceleration of trains and as waiting tracks. General procedure of the FIRRST system. For the FIRRST system to be effective, we need a common database containing both shipping requests and availability data for all the elements of multimodal transport in order to match offers and demand, ensuring the full integration of all related information and functions.
process, there will be a request from the shipper with their needs, the origin of the shipment, its destination, characteristics of the cargo, the date, and the desired time of arrival and any other relevant data. The system will respond with the different shipping options available and their cost, from which the shipper will choose the most appropriate to their needs. The system will send all requests to the agents participating in the shipment, prepare all the necessary documentation, and inform the shipper when shipment can be made and to which terminal.
There must be a constant and easily searchable flow of information between all participants in the shipment. First, the revolution comes to transport.
So thank you very much. I will overtake the presentation now, and thank you very much for our four presenters, to Juan, to Eduard, to Efrain, and to Valentin. And meanwhile, I've collected some questions from the chat, which I'm going to present you right now. And the first one is, what has been the procedure to determine the EU strategic logistic hubs? Question to you.
Well, what we have made basically is to consider three different parameters. One of them is the flow in number of tons of inflow and outflow of the different hub. Another one was the added value of the inflow or flow of the hubs, and finally the population. This has been calculated by Professor Lanfranco Sen, that is already connected with us, and only to say that we have put different weight in order to allow a synthetic index, and we put 10 value in the case of the number of inflow and outflow tons, 5 in the case of the added value, and only when by the population. And considering this, we have the different evaluation of the hubs that I have already mentioned.
Yeah, second question, with the application of the study conclusions in the EU network and first implementation, which could be the break-even trip distance?
Perhaps Eduardo here would answer this question.
Yes, because in our study, we actually looked into this. And in fact, we looked into two things. We looked into what's the break-even distance today, and what could it be if we applied this methodology to flexibilize, to make more flexible combined transport. Now, as of today, and obviously this changes if you look at different regions of Europe, but on average, we found that the break-even today was something like 567 kilometers, so which is quite a bit. But when you introduce a lot more flexibility in the rail transport, then it could go down to 151. So 151 kilometers might be in the future, if once we have all this flexibilization of the transport, might be the break-even distance between going by road or going by combined transport. That's what our study revealed.
Yeah, thank you. The third question is, since 2014, the Hyperfreight Initiative is proposing a railroad integrated solution, which could be complementary to what you are presenting. It was presented in a previous ERCI webinar 2 years ago. This webinar is not available in our YouTube channel, but we can put this video of this webinar from 2 years ago also into the YouTube channel. And yeah, the question is, did you take this initiative and this technology into consideration?
No.
Well, frankly speaking, what we have made is study from the scratch. We have analyzed which is the situation and we have looked which could be the solution. Of course, what we have seen is there is some kind, for instance, regarding terminal, there is some kind of terminals in Germany, for instance, the Lehrte terminal in the vicinity of Hanover allows such kind of philosophy regarding the freight trains change intermodal terminals. In this terminal, Lehrte terminal, we could change from train to train, as we have explained to you, and also from train to track, etc. No? Then this is one approach that already exists, but still there is no, as far as we know, there is no kind of trains working under demand at request. It doesn't exist in Europe.
So I think it could be, this webinar could be a good opportunity to network both initiatives or both technologies together. The question comes from Paolo Umiliaki from Italy. He's part of the Hyperfreight initiative. Maybe Paolo, you can make some additional words on that, or are you available?
Oh, what is clear is that we are fully open to collaborate with everybody.
Yeah.
Our study is open to everybody, and we would like to implement such kind of trains with the collaboration and the ideas of all the people that could be interested. In fact, we are fully open that all the people that could be interested in this take part of the Stakeholders Alliance. In fact, we take this occasion to invite you, all the members of FERRST, to join the Alliance. And of course, all the ideas, as I said, should be incorporated in this test that we are looking for.
Yeah. Do you hear me?
Hello, please.
Yes, sorry, I have no webcam at the moment. Anyway, I can just add a few words that this solution was conceived by expert engineers, railway engineers in Italy, and the main points are to use a new concept of a freight train, which is able to run in all the European railway network, including also high-speed tracks. And this means to have specific requirements for the trains, which match with requirements in the terminals, similar to what you have, but with the addition of the possibility to completely automatize the unloading and loading of wagons. So these are just the main points. We spent some years in defining this solution, and we will be happy to give more details if this can be considered useful.
Yeah, at first we tried to organize to make the recording of this webinar 2 years ago also available to you, and so that we can start with an exchange of experiences and so on. Yeah. So as the time is running,
we'll get in touch with you.
Yeah.
In order to share the information from both sides, and then we could, I think, this could be a win-win approach.
All right. As the time goes running, we kindly ask you to give us a short feedback on this organization, on the presentation of the webinar, and what is the most important point is if you have an idea for a future topic of a webinar, or you feel by yourself ready to present your innovative solution during one of our next ERCI webinars, please do not hesitate to contact us. Guido put the link to this very short feedback questionnaire in the chat. Then I already mentioned available the last recordings of the ERCI webinars, and also this recording will be available in a few days at the YouTube channel of the former STARS project. And can I ask you to mute? Yeah, it will be available in a few days, and then I go with some news from the go on with some news from the ERCI network. You see some proposals already. What could be the next topics of ERCI webinars? And it's most on using advanced technologies for the railway application case, like data security, cybersecurity, using artificial intelligence, interoperable data, blockchain, and so on. So if you have some further suggestions for topics, please let us know. Yeah, some news from the ERCI network, already mentioned by Bernard. The ERCI Innovation Awards will take place also this year. Awarding ceremony at Expo Ferroviaria in end of September, beginning of October this year. Application is a two-stage application scenario. First, please applicate with your solution at the regional ERCI cluster. There are 18 clusters available, and each of these clusters can nominate up to 3 applications to the European contest, so that we at the end have for the moment maximum 54 applications. And be inspired maybe by the video which gives you some impressions from the awarding ceremony in 2024, and please go with the ERCI webpage to to be informed around the certain status of applications. Please be also in contact with your regional cluster in order to ask them when or how you should apply as a company with your innovative solution. So then some information on follow-up activities of the Success project on internationalization of especially small medium-sized enterprises. We have the opportunity to offer you to exhibit at the Railway Interchange in Indianapolis in 2025. If you are interested to have a small booth, a small exhibition booth here on Railway Interchange, please contact ERCI, contact@euraclusters.com, and then we will give you some further information on that. Second activities will be a planned ERCI mission to Canada. The date will be announced as soon as possible, and further information will follow. And we have further exhibition possibilities for ERCI cluster members, like the Southeast Europe Mobility Fair in Belgrade in Serbia on 24th and 25th of April. You will find some details in the chat, as well as the 9th Railway Forum, which takes place in Berlin from 2nd to the 4th of September 2025. We have there also an attractive package to have a 2x2 square meters booth at the exhibition ground. And if you are interested to be there, please contact us or read the details given in the chat. So the next opportunity is to contribute to one of the calls of Horizon Europe. A new working program for 2025 is under finalization. and this working program could finally adopted in April or May 2025, and as soon as it is adopted, we are pleased to support you in order to find the right topic, the right consortium. Maybe you are interested to be a project leader of one of the projects, consortium leader, please let us know. You can already find some information on the possible topics and possible calls of this working program by following this link to the national contact point in Flanders, Netherlands, in Belgium, and there you will find a PDF of the draft version of the working program 2024 for the Cluster 5 Climate, Energy and Mobility. ERCI itself is a leader of the LEADER 2030 project. It is to suggest measures that contribute to strengthening the resilience of European supply chains for raw materials for the railway sector in the current global situation. And we took the opportunity to report the progress of the project at several ERCI webinars. As soon as we have new results on the project, we keep you informed, and Guido Altarari is our contact point for this LEADER 2030 project. And he is also the right contact point for the project Idealist, and Guido will explain the current activities and the goals of the Idealist project in some small words. Please, Guido.
Thank you, Lutz. Yes, few words on Idealist, which is a project, a European project aiming at helping SMEs to maintain their resilience and increase and innovate project and product using new advanced technologies. In this project, we are targeting a free ecosystem, energy-intensive industries, aerospace and defense, and mobility, transport, and automotive. We have launched the first I Can Match event, which is focused on advanced materials for European SMEs. And we have already collected in a first phase, following a call of challenges, 15 challenges. We are now in the middle of this call of solutions. So we are looking for finding solution providers, which could be tech-savvy SMEs, startup technology centers, researchers, European Digital Innovation Hub, and accelerator or similar scale-up organization. Next slide. So the 15 challenges are coming from those challengers. And you can find the description of all the challenges in the link, which is already in the chat. The next step will be to put together the challenger and the solution providers with an online event which will go on the 13th and 14th of February. And thanks to that, we try to increase the resilience of the SMEs, develop new products, and develop new markets, because we are all business oriented. Certainly there will be also an awarding ceremony which will occur during the GEC World Fair in Paris, beginning of March. This is all from the Idealist. I invite you to check the challenges, and if you are a solution provider, to answer in order to increase also.
All right, Guido, thank you very much for this explanation of the Idealist project and the upcoming Hack and Match event. The call for solution is open, and Yeah, that is also the end of the ERCI webinar by today. We keep you informed with a follow-up mail to all participants with the material of this ERCI webinar and the link to the recording. And we keep you also informed on next activities, on next topics for future ERCI webinars. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye.